All right, well, thank you all for joining our college essay Zoom tonight. I know for most students, the college essay is kind of the scariest, most stressful component of the college application, and fair enough because it's the part you have most control over at this point in time. Um, but that said, we're here to kind of help ease some of that stress a little bit. So I'd like to introduce our host for tonight, Mr. Steve Tapper. He's an independent education consultant, college advisor, that has been working with us for a few years now, and he so graciously volunteers his time not only for events like this, but also doing one-on-one meetings, college essay advising meetings with our seniors throughout the fall. So I highly encourage you guys to take advantage of him. He's amazing. But yeah, without further ado, I will let you take it away, Mr. Top.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson, and thank you for having me again. And just wanted to welcome all students and parents. I know this is a busy time of year, and hopefully your end of semester is going well, and you're going to be getting ready to have a nice Memorial Day weekend coming up. So I'm going to go ahead. I only have about 18 slides here, so it's not that long of a presentation. I am going to be happy to stay after and answer any questions that you might have. So if you could put those in the chat and Ms. Anderson can monitor that. And yeah, so let's get going here. Okay. So today we're going to cover the Common Application Personal Essay, also known as the Personal Statement, and supplemental essays. So the Common Application is accepted by over 1,000 colleges. Some notable exceptions are MIT, the University of California system, and the California State system. There are some colleges that used to have their own applications only, but a lot of them have moved to the Common Application. So some colleges require in terms of essays, only the Common App personal essay, the one that's 650 words or less. Other colleges and universities also require students to respond to supplemental essays or college-specific essays. There are some that don't actually look at the Common App personal essay and they only look at their own. But for the most part, most colleges that want to see essays will look at the Common App personal essay as well as if they have supplemental essays. Some don't use essays at all. So the more selective colleges tend to typically weigh essays the most, and they're also the ones that tend to have supplemental essays, and in a lot of cases, multiple supplemental essays per college. So there is also something called the additional information section and the challenges and circumstances section. Both of those are optional. The second one I mentioned used to be more focused on COVID-19 challenges, but it's been repurposed just as we've gotten further away from COVID-19. And those sections can address any number of things. It could be if you had low grades for a semester or a year, or low grades in a particular class, you were out for medical
Just
reasons,
found Uh-oh.
or there was some disruption in your family life that
Right.
that led to some grades or some other situations that were less than ideal that colleges might have questions about if it's not explained. Those types of things are usually better done in the additional information section or the challenges and circumstances section, not in the Common App personal essay. If you've changed schools, you must briefly explain that in the education section of the Common Application. And sometimes more context is needed, especially if it's a disciplinary situation, then the additional information section can be used for that. But today we're really going to focus on the Common App personal essay and then supplemental essays. So let's see. Again, it's also called the personal statement informally. And basically, the Common App personal statement or personal essay helps add voice to your application. It lets the colleges get to know you beyond your statistics and activities. You can, in small doses, talk about activities that you've been involved in your Common App personal essay, but it should not be a resume or a recitation of awards because there's other places in the application for that. So essentially, colleges are looking for certain personal qualities and traits. As indicated on the slide, it could be intellectual curiosity, initiative, resilience, drive, collaboration, teamwork, leadership, contributing to the community, being kind, having a variety of experiences. So basically, colleges want to know that you'll be an asset to them. You're going to be a strong student, a kind roommate, an interesting classmate, someone who's going to contribute to the community and give back to others. Content really matters a lot more than the writing itself. Certainly, you don't want to have typographical errors, and you don't want to be repeating words. Certainly we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go forward here. But it's the content that matters, trying to emotionally connect with the reader and get them to go to bat for you when your application goes into the committee. So, in terms of how to write an essay, there's not really one way to do it, but certainly brainstorming ideas is a key part of it. A lot of students like to free write, and that can be effective. And some don't like to free write. Some like to just do an outline and then start writing a draft. But free writing can be really helpful because you don't have to really worry about spelling or organization or how your sentences are flowing or grammar or even the word limit. You can just get your thoughts out. And ideally, at some point soon, you want to develop a theme and use stories and anecdotes. Essentially, you want to state what happened and then eventually reflect on that in terms of why those events matter. So plain language is usually the best way to go. If you find yourself using words that you need a thesaurus for or words that you wouldn't use in talking, that's usually an indication that you should try to tone down the language and be more like you talk. So eventually through the process, you're going to make revisions, you're going to polish. Proofreading is super important. Grammarly is a great way to catch typographical errors, though I do want to caution you that Grammarly is a form of AI and it does have a lot of suggestions in terms of trying to make writing more concise and flow better. And if you end up just accepting Grammarly's suggestions, it could and likely will take your voice out of the essay, and it's really not going to be as compelling. So in using Grammarly, I would not accept changes that they suggest routinely. I would certainly look at typographical errors, grammar mistakes. If there are wording suggestions, consider them. But I would make those changes manually. I would not just go with what Grammarly says. Certainly not for too many things. Parents, it's going to vary by student. It's going to vary by parent, depending on your family. But it's okay to ask parents for ideas, especially during the brainstorming phase. Parents can be a great source of remembering things that you might not remember as a student. And that goes for activity lists also, which is really not the topic of this presentation. But parents definitely can be helpful. At the end of the process, too, parents can be another set of eyes to make sure that you don't have typos or you're not repeating a word. But you definitely want to make sure that parents do not write or significantly edit your essay because it can take your voice away and a college doesn't want to hear an essay in a parent's voice. It needs to be in a 17 or 18-year-old's voice. So it really, it's not a problem that I see that much in terms of parents getting into essays, but it does happen and it's pretty easy to spot. And if I can see it, a college can see it. So this summer is a great time for juniors to be working on your essay. So you definitely don't want to be waiting until school starts to do that. So the Common App essay prompts are already out. So these are paraphrased for the prompts. The presentation is going to be posted, either emailed and or posted by Ms. Anderson. So, and I'm sure you can find the prompts. They didn't change from last year to this year. So we'll discuss the prompts briefly here, but essentially the key language in the instructions for the Common App personal essay is, what do you want the readers of your application to know about you apart from courses, grades, and test scores? And really, it should also say, and your activities and awards. So basically, what can you tell the reader that's not elsewhere in your application? How can you emotionally connect with the reader and have them be real excited about you, coming onto their campus? So, though there are prompts, as I mentioned, for the Common App personal essay, there's 6 specific prompts, plus number 7 is basically topic of your choice. Unlike supplemental essays where the wording of the prompt matters a lot, for the personal essay, the wording of the prompt really does not matter and really shouldn't dictate what you write about. It can be helpful to brainstorm topics if you're really not sure what to write about. You can look at the prompts and it can jog your memory. But a lot of times, most of the time, colleges really don't even look at what Common App personal essay prompt you pick. They're just going to read the essay. So again, here is a quick summary. I'm not going to read them, but there's a variety, as you can see, of different types of prompts. And 99% of the time, you're going to be able to find a topic that works with one of these 6 prompts, or you can just pick number 7. In terms of brainstorming a topic, it doesn't have to be a super earth-shattering or life-altering event. Not everybody has that. But you all have important stories to tell. So one way to go about it is to think about adjectives that others might use to describe you. How would your teachers, your parents, your friends, your coaches describe you? Think of stories or anecdotes that might illustrate those traits. So again, you can look at the prompts for ideas. ChatGPT and other AI can be really helpful in brainstorming a topic. I will talk more about AI later. I am a big fan of the College Essay Guide because they give away so many resources to anybody. They have a whole section on their website, and here are some links to some of their best brainstorming exercises. So the values one talks about, things that you value, and it could be any number of things, and ways to try to get those across in essays. Essence objects, look around your house, look around your room. That can indicate some things that are important to you, and that can give you ideas for essays. And then there's definitely some other really good brainstorming tools out there from College Essay Guide. In terms of length, again, it's limited to 650 words. Depending on the how selective the college is you're applying to, this is going to be more important for the more selective colleges, but generally you're going to want to be at least 90% of the word limit for essays. So for the Common App personal essay, it would be, high 500s in words up to 650. Maybe for less selective colleges where the essay is not quite as crucial, a bit shorter might be okay. But you should be able to get to the high 500s in terms of words. Now, there's many ways to structure the personal statement. I'm going to highlight two ways again, just because the college essay guy has some great resources online about um, how to structure these particular types of essays. One is overcoming a challenge, and this type of structure works really well as long as you focus on three parts and try to make them about the same length, about 200 plus words for all three sections. So the first paragraph could be, what identify the challenges and how they impacted you. The second third of the essay would be how you responded to them, what you did, what action did you take. And the third part would be what you learned, how you grew as a person, maybe how you're going to take those lessons into college. So the biggest pitfall on this structure is that a lot of students take too much, use too many words on the first part, the challenges and their impact, and they don't leave enough room to discuss in detail how they responded and what they learned. So again, online, you can take a look and read on the College Essay Guy strategies for writing this type of an essay. Not everybody has significant hardships or may not want to write about them. So this is just a structure that the College Essay Guy mentions. They call it a montage structure. It's basically connecting a seemingly unrelated experience through a common theme or thread. So I just gave some examples here. It could be, books could be running through as a common theme, and you could talk about some volunteer work you did involving books, maybe at a library. You could talk about leading a book club, and you could talk about, maybe the time you spend in a library being very comforting. Gardening, again, you could have that running through as a theme. Growing tomatoes or something else with your grandmother. And again, you could bring in interactions with your grandmother, and you could also talk about a composting project you did at school. And then, on a related note, you could talk about something you did in AP Bio, something you studied, or maybe some research project you did over the summer that relates to it. And again, these are just examples of ways that you can talk about different things that may or may not be related, but you can bring out different parts of you, different personal qualities and traits through these stories. But again, it's not as though there are just two structures. There's any number of structures you can use, and these are just some simple examples. So in terms of things to try to avoid, again, try not to sound like a resume where you're repeating your activities and awards. Colleges are reading applications very quickly, sometimes 7 or 8 minutes for a whole application. So, I mean, that's everything. That's your transcript, recommendation letters, activities list, awards list, everything. So a college may only have a couple minutes to read your essays. So writing in metaphors or very cryptic writing styles is not the best usually. Just being straightforward and plain language is really the best way to go. ChatGPT and other AI tools, they're definitely here to stay, but they do not write good essays because it's not going to sound like you if you have an AI tool write your essay. It's just not going to sound like you. It's not going to emotionally connect with the reader. And most colleges prohibit it. Some use AI checkers. I know they're not necessarily the most accurate, and whether colleges actually use them, I don't know, but it's pretty apparent to someone who reads an essay when it came from AI. So, I think AI can be a great tool for brainstorming ideas. It can be awesome for outlining, and you can even, run a draft essay through AI, for feedback, but do not copy and paste from AI. You can use it as a tool to improve your writing, but everything you do should be what you've typed, and any edits should be manually made by you, because it is pretty clear when something is done by AI, and it's not effective either. So avoiding cliches is also a good idea, because it's just not an effective way to write. So it's not necessarily telling the college anything about you if you're using cliches. One thing that some students do is they may focus a little bit too much of their essay on elementary or middle school. Your essay should be as close to present as possible, and definitely the majority of it should be about you in high school. So, it's possible, and often a good idea, to mention something briefly from elementary or middle school, but that should not be the focus of the essay. Similarly, you don't want your essay to focus on somebody else, like a parent or a grandparent or a friend. You want the college to want to admit you, not that person. Again, it's okay to talk about someone else, but the majority of the essay should be about you, so colleges can learn about you. Mental health is a risky topic to talk about in a personal essay, especially if it's a current condition. Even if it's a past condition, it's usually better to choose another topic for your personal essay. I don't want to say never, but the additional information section and the challenges section, both of those optional sections are there if you feel that a mental health challenge has impacted your grades negatively, or you think there's something about your application that needs to be explained. It's better off to do that in the optional section most of the time and have a different topic for the personal essay. Being vulnerable is good, and if you look at the college essay guide, they have something called the Great College Essay Test, and it's basically, this is sort of how you know your essay is really good. One of the key indicators of most really good essays is vulnerability. You definitely just have to realize that too much information is not ideal, though. So you can be vulnerable without sharing too much. Okay, supplemental essays. Again, very different than the Common App personal statement. Some colleges have them, a lot of them don't. They're typically available by August 1st. A lot of colleges release them over the summer, so even sooner. Georgia and Georgia Tech tend to release theirs in June or July, which is nice. The a lot of colleges are waiting really right up until August 1st, and some even tweak them a little bit in early August. A lot of reasons for that. There's been Supreme Court decisions, and there's a lot of input that sometimes legal counsel has in terms of how essays should be worded. So especially the most highly selective schools, they tend to wait until pretty close to, if not August 1st. So that's why it's really important to get your Common App personal statement and the rest of your Common App done over the summer, preferably by the end of July. So you'll have time to work on supplemental essays once they become available. Supplemental essays can be just as important as the main personal essay, in some cases more important, because colleges are designing these essays. They're deciding what they want to ask about. And since they want the information they're asking for, it's really important that you write good supplemental essays. How you answer the supplemental essays can show a number of things. It could show your knowledge of a school, which can be important, and it also can show your interest in the school. There's something called demonstrated interest that some of y'all have heard about. Some colleges care about that, how interested you are in the college. Some do not factor that in. But for colleges that consider demonstrated interest, these supplemental essays can be crucial in terms of whether they think you're going to come if you get admitted. So that can play a big part in whether they actually admit you versus waitlisting you or even not admitting you. Generally speaking, optional supplemental essays should be done. There are some exceptions. There's some colleges that might have 3 optional essays and they say do 0, 1, 2, or 3 of them, and they're very serious that you don't have to do all of them. Especially if you don't have something great to write for that last one, it's often better, to not do it. But 95% of the time, if it's an optional essay, you really should try to do it. As I mentioned earlier, unlike the personal statement where the prompts are really not important or even considered by the colleges when they're reading your essay, every word of the supplemental essay prompts are super important. You really want to understand what the college is asking for. And the prompt, it might look like one question, but there could be 3 questions or 3 items that the college is really looking to get out of your response. So definitely pay a lot of attention to the way those are worded. You can definitely reuse content from one college's supplemental essay to another, especially if it's why do you want to major in something? But usually you need to customize at least part of the essay for the college. So Georgia Tech typically asks, as their supplemental essay, state what you want to study and why you want to study it at Georgia Tech. So the first half of that essay could be the same for another college, but the second part where you're getting into the weeds about Georgia Tech and why you want to study X or Y there and what you're going to take advantage of there, that should be different for different colleges. So there are definitely some common supplemental essay prompts, and then there's some, oddball ones that are not. But the most common ones are why this college, why this major, and extracurricular activity, a community, talk about a community you're part of, and talk about an identity of yours. So the why this college essay is really asking why you would be a good match for the college. It's your opportunity to sell yourself without acting like you're selling yourself. So instead of just going on and on about all the great things about the college, you certainly don't want to be talking about, how prestigious it is or where it's ranked. Those are not good things to talk about, or or the beautiful weather, or the fact that it's by a ocean. I mean, you really want to connect the college. It could be its mission statement, it could be other things about the college and its culture, and you want to connect that to you. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but you want to realize that you're really trying to sell yourself without making it sound like you're trying to sell yourself. Why major? Again, sometimes that's combined with why college if they're only going to ask one essay, but sometimes it's separate. But basically, this is generally asking, how will you take advantage of what the college has to offer academically? So you could talk about what subjects interest you the most, that aligns with your major. A lot of colleges consider what's called fit to major. The more selective colleges are interested. If you say you want to major in X, what have you done academically? What have you taken? What have you done extracurricular wise that supports what you want to major in? So you want to connect your interests to what the college offers in terms of the major and other things, extracurricular activities at the college that relate to the major. Could be a professor's research at the college that really interests you, classes at the college that you want to take. This is where you have to do a lot of research into the college, and you have to customize these essays for each college. Again, extracurricular activities, sometimes you're asked about a meaningful extracurricular activity, and it's whether or not the college asks it this way, you do want to try to connect to how you're going to contribute on campus to something similar, some similar activity, whether it's athletic or religious or community service. Another type of essay doesn't have to be community service related, but some colleges will ask, discuss a community that you're part of. And what they're really trying to get at is, how are you going to be part of something bigger than yourself in college? And community is really defined broadly. It's defined any way you want to. It could be your school, could be a sports team, it could be a religious organization, it could be volunteer work that you're doing. But basically, you want to connect what you've done in high school to groups and causes that are available at the college that you're writing this about. And identity, some colleges have asked, how will you add to the diversity of the college? I'm not sure if these essays are going to be as common going forward as they have been the last couple of years, but they may be worded a little bit differently, but there's definitely an opportunity to discuss relevant topics. And diversity is defined broadly. It's not necessarily, race, national origin, and in other categories like that. It could be your lived experiences, how they're different, how you'll apply that on campus. Again, try to connect that to organizations at college to show that you've done the homework and that you have an impact on campus. So just in terms of closing thoughts, getting back to the Common App personal essays, that's slightly more common than the supplemental essays for the majority of students. You really want to give colleges a sense of who you are as a person and have the reader really connect with you and want to go to bat for you when the admission decision is made. What kind of personal qualities and traits will you add, whether it's as a roommate or as another community member? Some topics, as we discussed before, mental health, maybe other topics, are not the greatest for the Common App personal essay, but there are other places to add those if appropriate, or maybe omit those if they're not really relevant to anything you're trying to explain on the application. Sometimes colleges do a good job of understanding and appropriately considering mental health challenges, but sometimes they don't. And it's just a case by case. But whatever you do, try to get started early this summer if you're a junior. And I do have this other document, this essay, Common App and University of California resources document that Ms. Anderson will provide. And it has a lot of great resources, a lot of links from the College Essay Guide, from Access Companion, which is an awesome guide. It's spelled AXS Companion. It's a free guide to every part of the Common application. And it's a joint venture between independent college counselors and Oregon State University, and it's really well done. And I highly recommend it. And there's other links on there that are really helpful. And for any low-income, highly motivated students, I also have links to the Matchlighter Scholars Program, which is an essay guy. This is my fifth volunteering with Matchlighters, and it's an awesome program, and I do recommend it for any students who qualify. And there's a chart on the website in terms of income levels that would qualify for that, depending on the size of your family. And there's also a link to Matriculate, which is another organization that can be helpful to students. I'm not as familiar with that one as I work with Matchlighters, but I definitely recommend that as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I haven't been looking at the chat to see if there's any questions.
Really, but if anybody, please drop them. Yes, the meeting is recorded and I will be posting it tomorrow and sharing it on Remind. Any other questions? You're also welcome to come off mute if you have questions.
Yep, happy to answer any questions live.
Mhm. Well, we can give it another minute or two, but yeah.
Well,
Thank you guys for
yeah, feel free
Go ahead.
to reach out. You can email answer any of your questions or point you in the right direction if you are looking for
What
additional
was your
resources.
email address?
Steve at Tapper, Tapper, collegecounseling.com.
It's wait, Steve at Third Counseling. I'm gonna drop it in the chat.
I'll screen share real quick again. This is the document that I was referring to with all the links in it. It has contact information also, but this is a lot of really helpful links. And here's the Matchlighters and the Matriculate link at the bottom, and all the other. Yeah, and
I'll be sharing
also
this document. Sorry.
Yep.
Just saying I'll be sharing this document as well.
All right, any questions?
I do see a question from Diana about teacher recommendations. So we will on Tuesday have another college application Zoom night that just goes over all the components of college application. So we'll go over teacher recs more in detail, but to answer your question, no, teachers only write one recommendation and then it goes to any of the colleges that you assign them as a recommender to. I think that was yeah, so they write one and it goes to multiple or all of your schools. And then if schools allow more than one recommender, you can get multiple recommendations for different. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Tapper. That was awesome. I learned a ton. I hope everybody else did. But like you said, if you guys have questions, reach out. But yeah.
Thanks so much, Ms. Anderson, and thank you all for coming, and have a great rest of the